said, how was it after last week? He goes, I don't know what the fuck you did to me, but my wife says I'm a nice person now. Resting heart rate had dropped 25 beats per minute. That's why we're tired. That's why our immune system's not working. Never do it without anyone having a second thought.
Curiosity is the key to the imagination.
Choreography podcast, let's do this!
Dream the impossible dream. Welcome to Mike Helpin's Curiosity podcast.
All right, so good, let's go. We're here.
Yalla. Welcome.
So, yes, well, welcome. Welcome to KL. Welcome
Thank you
to
very
my
much.
podcast. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
So, look, all right, I know you're a breathwork expert because
Yes.
I've done the class, multiple
Yes.
classes with you, and I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
Right? But Brendon Hansford, why don't you give us a background? Give us an origin story from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, from the story. So I'm a creative at heart. Like I've always been a creative. I'd say it started way back. Like originally I studied fashion and arts. So I was an artist and I went to London College of Fashion, and that was kind of the direction I was going in for a bit. And then around the age of 18, I walked past a place called Pineapple Dance Studios in London, and I looked through the window and saw these beautiful women and was like, I think I need to start dancing. So I got into dancing, absolutely fell in love as a dancer, and ended up going to a place called Laban Centre, which is a ballet contemporary school in London, in Greenwich, and trained there for a bit. It wasn't for me at the time. Ironically, I came back later, but at the time I was like, it was a little bit too rigid. There was a massive stigma behind boys dancing still back then. Could you come out? I'm older than I look. So back then, a boy dancing still had a kind of a nasty stigma behind it. And I didn't really like that. So I got into all the street dance styles. So I learned like locking, popping, house, breaking, waving, a million different styles, hip hop obviously being one of the main ones. And that took me around the world. So I traveled to America, learned from some of the best, traveled all around the UK and again learned from the best. That slowly led to me into having a dance career. So I worked as a dancer till I was around 30 years old. And then I switched over to being a choreographer. So it happened because I kept getting injured. Like my body just kept breaking in different places. So I was like, okay, it's time to quit dancing. So I actually completely quit. I was like, I'm done, I'm out of this world, I don't want to do it anymore. And I started to train as a life coach. And weirdly enough, that was the beginning of my personal development journey. I hadn't really even heard of it up till then. It was still very new. It was still something that people kind of thought was woo-woo. Coaching. Therapy was even still very, new to be accepted by people. But throughout the process, I had an amazing coach that was coaching me. And I realized I didn't want to quit dancing. I just didn't want to be a dancer anymore. So I transferred into being a choreographer. And actually, up to that point, I'd been choreographing a lot anyway without realizing it. I owned a dance studio, which I'd bought an old plot of land with an old scout hut on it and turned it into a dance studio. And then around 32, I sold it, made a good profit. So I've always kind of been entrepreneurial as well. And then I think that's where my career started. So as a choreographer, I got to work with Sam Smith, Rod Stewart, Rick Ashley, David Guetta, BB Rexa, ton of brands, BBC, ITV, Renault. I've got a crazy long list. My career's been great. When I was a choreographer, it was just easy in terms of the work you put in actually brought it back. Whereas as a dancer, there's a lot of chance, there's a lot of luck, there's a lot of being in the right place at the right time. But as a choreographer, I could combine my entrepreneurial streak with the talent. And so, because it was a different level, your crew then, right? And you get this. It's the difference between doing the performer, where it's like you go and sit in the green room, stay out the way, to being a choreographer where you're on set, learning from the director and learning from
Part of the creative process.
Yes, part of the creative process, exactly. And so I'm still a choreographer. I still do that. But I'm also now a creative director, film director, a photographer, videographer. I also edit sound, edit video, edit pictures as well. So rewind till about 22. So I was a dancer and I picked up a camera. I remember asking all my family, hey, I really want a camera. I can't afford it. It's my birthday coming up. Everyone chipped in and got me I think it was a Canon Rebel back in the day, with the kit lens, terrible kit lens. And I just started taking pictures and doing video of dancing. And that was all I wanted to do. So to do that, I had to learn to edit. So then obviously I picked up Photoshop and a Premiere Pro and Final Cut back then, and just started playing around. So everything was self-taught, and I just got better and better and better. And then being on sets and working as a choreographer, and I had a lot of cool directors I worked with, like Vaughan Arnell was one specific. So he's worked with like Rob Williams, Spice Girls. He's been doing it for years. He was such a cool director because he'd be like, there's a dance scene coming up. Bren, do you want to direct this? I was like, what? Huh? He goes, well, you'll do it better than me. Come on, you do it. You try it. Because he knew I wanted to go into that. So he was amazing in kind of facilitating that next step from being a videographer, cinematographer, choreographer, movement director. And he helped me get into that. And before you know it, the agencies and the people that worked with him would offer me like the lower budget jobs. They say, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And so I suddenly got into that a little bit. Oh God, I'm getting lost because there's so many different things. And then I think it was moving to Dubai about 4 years ago where everything kicked off. So I've come to Dubai as a cinematographer, videographer, choreographer, and just starting out as a director. And the good thing about Dubai compared to, say, the UK, in the UK, if you are more than one thing, they kind of look at you with a side eye, like, so you don't specialize. No, I do. I'm good at all of them. Yeah, but you don't specialize. Whereas in Dubai, it's the opposite. If you say, oh, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, they go, wow, so you can do this, this, and this. Great. If we pay you a little extra, will you do that too? Yeah, sure, happily. So they see it as a bonus that you have so many skill sets. And so when I first got to Dubai, it was mid-COVID. So the UK was about to go into a third lockdown. And I was a creative, so I'm crawling the walls. I'm hating every second of being locked in one tiny little room. So I was like, screw this, what country's open? Dubai, great. Who do I know in Dubai? One person, brilliant. Jumped on a flight 2 days later, left for Dubai. My first job was a directing video editor job. So it was an all-in-one job. And that one job paid for my 2-year visa, 3 months rent, I bought a car and had money to spend in one job.
That's a good job.
So I was instantly like, why am I in the UK? This same job would have been 20% of the same amount of money. And there's no tax. what are people doing? So obviously I stayed, got my visa. And since then, I've been working with a lot of creative agencies. And they realized very quickly I'm extremely good on the computer, extremely good at design work, and very good at creating silly ideas out of the box. So before you know it, I'm creating decks for companies and putting on events. Like my biggest credit was I was the UAE creative director for the opening of the Atlantis Royal with Beyonce. So, huge credit, which is great. So I was doing big events like that. And then also the next day I'd be filming and just doing a random event, getting paid to do it and edit. And then I'm teaching at Sharjah Performing Arts Academy. And then I'm choreographing on a music video and a commercial here. And then I'm doing an Amazon commercial as a director. So the multifaceted skill set, came in handy, and I was just bouncing from job to job every day.
It's good to be busy, isn't it?
Yeah, I bloody love it.
So where did the life coaching come in? I'm trying to put that into the timeline.
So back to the age 30,
yeah,
getting all these injuries, I've always been a dancer. I didn't realize I'd always been a teacher choreographer as well. It's just something I did on the side. So it was a side hustle to kind of prop up the fact that I'm a dancer. Dancers don't make a lot of money. You do live paycheck to paycheck, month to month. So having the teaching work and having a little company that I created made me an extra income, but I was choreographing constantly. But I didn't really see it that way. I just saw it as something to make some extra money. And then so the injuries started setting in, and I was like, I'm done. Like my body, this is the sign that I need to stop my dance career. I'm 30 now, and as a dancer, that feels old. We now know it's not. But at that time, I thought I was like, do you know what, I'm done. I'm out of this. So I took myself out of the dance world completely. I think I just had a shoulder operation, and I was out for about a year anyway. So it was, can't remember, it was one of them.
Okay.
Because the reason this came about is I was with a contemporary company. So I came back to contemporary dance. I know I jump around a lot. And I was lifting this girl every night on one arm, and like, woof, woof. And one night, it just went. And that was it.
Do you remember what kind of injury it was?
Yeah, so one of the bones had moved to crush the nerves of the rotational cuff.
Oh.
So they had to shave back the bone to open up space. So it's still weird. It's still not fixed, but nothing's being impinged. So I'm not getting crazy pain shooting up and down my arm.
Yeah, nerve injuries are tough. Very weird. Yeah.
Literally, even just lifting a cup sometimes was like, oh.
And it goes all the way down your arm,
just shoots,
right?
Shoots like a heart attack. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So I gave up, and one of my friends, I'll tell you how we got into it. So just before that, I was a fitness model as well.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Coming back a bit. So I've been doing fitness modeling for a while, and I was working with a company that basically was a protein company. And they kind of sponsored me to train up, get incredibly fit, and be a transformation person that I did this because of this shakes, and then sell it a lot, and I make a good commission from it. So I did that and ended up being a fitness model and going on stage and going to Atlanta and competing with the UK and all these things I know. And that's kind of when my shoulder went. So I was dancing full time and training at the gym twice a day and doing the fitness. My body probably just went, stop.
Overdid it.
Yeah, stop. It's time to stop. And so one of the coaches I had within the protein company was a life coach. And she was one of the most inspiring people I'd ever met. Like, she just, everything she said made you think. And I love that. And I was like, how did you train? So she directed me to a course. I went and did the whole week. You know, when you lock yourself away for a weekend, they don't let you see the outside. And you go through all these breakthroughs. You're like, oh my God, that's why I do this. That's why I do this. Oh, I got to call everybody in the world and tell them I'm sorry. It's one of those courses. And then it led on to an advanced course. And then I started to do the training course to become a life coach. But the coach I had was amazing. Like, he was a brilliant, brilliant guy. He used to be a dancer, ironically, and turned life coach. So we had this kind of connection. And he made me realize I wasn't ready to leave dancing. I just didn't want to be a dancer anymore. So then I switched back to being a choreographer, and I went nuts. I emailed everybody and anyone that would ever listen to me. And there was this one agency called Love Rudai, run by a guy named Stuart Bishop, and he just gave me a chance. He had a coffee meeting with me, and he goes, right, I want you to do all of this. And I went, okay. 3 days later, I'm done. He went, dude, that should have taken you 3 months. He goes, I'm taking you on. And then I went on the agency, and my career went.
Shout out to Mr. Bishop.
Yeah, Mr. Bishop's a ledge. He's still going. He's still killing it over in London. So that's where the life coaching came in. It was like a stopgap. I'm going to change career, but then I came back again and changed it in the same career, just a different skill set.
Okay. So what led you to breathwork? Because that's how I know you.
Yes.
I know you as a breathwork
I know, it's
expert.
hilarious, right?
Even though
20-year career.
Yeah, and we're both directors, right?
Yes.
And we're both directors, and
Yes,
we're both
well, you
into
direct
films.
films.
Yeah,
I do
I've done
commercials,
film.
music videos,
Right.
and one documentary. Building a Dancer, it's on YouTube free. And plug. So breathwork. Okay, so it comes out of my own trauma. So I've had a very interesting life, and there's been a lot of traumas and a lot of things that have been very interesting. Some I'm happy to talk about, some I will never talk about.
Feel free.
But I was in a very, very toxic situation at the time, like it was probably the worst out of a string of toxic situations.
When you were how old?
This is only about 2 years ago now.
Okay.
So this is quite recent. I only got into breathwork properly about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
But one thing you'll realize is my ADHD is very hyper-focused. So when I love something, I get so hyper-focused on it, I need to know everything about it. Every single thing. So, rewind. I was in a toxic situation, and I had this idea to go to Bali and hoping it would heal all of us.
Like everybody does.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I wasn't really into this stuff before. I kind of touched on it a little bit, and I would go to maybe a meditation class once in every 2 years. Like, I wasn't really into it, but I kind of saw that there was something there. So I went to Bali, and with the aim for a lot of people to heal in my type, I'm being very careful of my words now, in the type vicinity. Anyway, that didn't work, but it helped me. Okay. So I found breathwork, I found sound healing, and I loved it, and I just wanted to know more. Now I realize the breathwork I did in Bali wasn't crazy impactful at all compared to what I do now. So when I got back, I started to train up, learn everything I possibly could around breathwork. Trained up on a course as a qualified breathwork instructor through Breathmasters, and then that led me down the rabbit hole, shall we say, and I got myself out of that situation. So the toxic situation was happening, and it was happening, and it was happening, and it was happening, and I was doing breathwork, and I was slowly coming out of it. And then worst case was basically I ended up in hospital with a phantom heart attack. So it wasn't a real heart attack, thank you, but when your stress and anxiety is so high, your body can be misconceived into thinking it's having a heart attack. So I was getting the shooting pains, I was getting the tight chest, everything. And so I went to hospital, and the doctor said, whatever's causing this stress, you need to get out of your life, or the next one will be a real heart attack.
Is there an official term for that besides phantom heart attack, or is it like
I don't think so, because I Googled it and I couldn't find much on it.
Okay.
So I think the doctor just called it that.
Right.
So is there an official term? I don't know. My Google search, there is apparently. The cameraman is
Well,
nodding.
what is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is an official term.
Oh,
yeah,
phantom heart attack.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not a real heart attack, luckily, because I had all the tests. There was no blockages. I had the ECG, and then they took all the blood tests.
Reminds me of The Sopranos. Reminds me of Tony Soprano.
Go on.
How he would always get, the main character
Yeah.
of that mafia show. And
But wasn't he
would al-
massively overweight?
he was overweight, but no, he would always have the whole point of the show was that he would
Yeah.
see a therapist.
Yeah.
And it happened because he started passing out. He'd get these super stress-induced situations, and he would feel
Yeah.
like he was having a heart attack, and he passed out. And then he ended up going to therapy.
Do you know
and
I've never seen The Sopranos?
your therapy? Oh, if you're not even seen The Sopranos, man, that's top 10 of all
Damn
time.
it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm going to do now?
Yeah, you gotta see.
There's like a million seasons, right?
Yeah, it doesn't age very well in terms of like political correctness.
Oh, what does?
But in terms of like quality,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Sopranos is the show that kind of made television what it is today.
Okay.
Like cinematic level TV.
Perfect.
That's what The Sopranos started.
Okay.
The Wire, Sopranos.
I need to watch it now,
Yeah, yeah, you do. That's the one that kicked off this whole Netflix, everything, in terms of cinematic television.
Brilliant. And now everything is series-based, isn't it? Films, as much as I love films, more
Yeah.
money is going towards seasons now. Because you have longer to build a plot, you have longer to build a narrative and to pull people in.
Yeah,
Like-
and you have them on a hook where they
Yeah.
have to come back each
Yeah.
episode.
Exactly. And now you have Netflix, which is binging. And there are many other ones out there, just to be correct. So yeah, I was in hospital, and then the doctor said, get whatever that is out of your life, and that was a huge wake-up call for me, that I had to get rid of that toxic thing in my life, and so I did. And almost straight away, within a few days, it was gone. I cleared it out. And normally, after something like that, I would be a mess. I'd be upset. I'd be a bit broken. I wouldn't handle it very well. But I'd been doing breathwork for 3 months up to this point, and it just didn't bother me. It was literally like, I feel great. Went back to the hospital a week later to get a checkup. My resting heart rate had dropped 25 beats per minute,
Whoa.
just by not having that situation in my life anymore.
I wish I could get to 25 beats per minute.
No, 25 beats lower.
Oh,
So it was
okay. I was gonna
calm, I'll be dead. It was like 105 resting in the hospital, and then it went down to below 80.
Yeah, 80, that's where you want to
So
be. You
I'd
wanna
been
be below
living
70,
for a
below-
while, almost as a resting heart rate of between like 90 and 110.
That's
Which is
not
incredible.
that's
no,
not
it's,
healthy.
it's mad. And I have a family history of heart problems, so for me it was a really, really scary moment, like really scary. I was petrified in the hospital, and I didn't really have any support in that moment. So it was just me scaring myself in the hospital. But yeah, getting rid of that. But I wouldn't have been able to do it in such an effective and there's a good word for it, but I can't think of it. In such a good way where I came out the other end and I was good. I mean, like the next day, I was good. There was no moment of breaking down. There was no nothing. And I think the universe kind of went, finally, you learned. Because I'd had a series of toxic situations in the past. And then suddenly I got all this work. And I was busy 24/7, earning more money than I'd earned in the last 2 years in the space of like 4 months.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of expats also go through that at some point in their journey because they're away from home. You're on your own. There's nobody but you to rely on and depend on.
Yeah.
And it can be very challenging. But at the same time, it ends up being very rewarding because you realize that you can go through anything. And that's why I encourage people to travel by themselves.
Yes.
Because it fosters this independence
Agreed.
that you don't need anybody else and that you can get through any situation. Like I'm gonna encourage my kids to do a gap year.
Yeah.
Right. Travel around the world. Find out who you want to be.
Yeah.
Gain that self-confidence that you can, be on your own and handle situations by yourself. And that's like a very, very I would say common journey with a common struggle that expats have because it takes a little something special to move halfway around the world and
really does,
be in a situation where you're in a completely foreign land, a different culture, you have to adapt, you have no friends, no family, you have to meet new people, and it can be challenging.
Yeah.
But when you make it through those challenges, it's amazing.
It's awesome.
And you had breath work there to help you with it. So
Well, I didn't in the beginning.
Oh,
So when I first moved, I didn't. It was just running away from COVID and the misery of COVID. And then I found a land that was prosperous, and you know, there was loads of cool people and everyone's in the same boat. So actually I found it very easy to make friends. I just found myself in a bad situation along the way. And breathwork only came in a year and a half ago. So anyway, coming back to the story. So after that situation, I realized everyone needs to have this. Everyone needs to go through what I've been through in terms of the breakthroughs and understanding themselves and letting go of trauma and releasing trauma in a way that's, how do I put this really directly? I did 20 years of talking therapy. I did more in 3 months with breathwork.
And you work it out yourself.
Yeah, and you literally do it yourself. So I joined a company and I was working with a company for a while, and they didn't really align with my values. There was something that it didn't work for me. And I addressed it and I tried to make some changes with them, but it wasn't something possible. So I went on my own and I created IMD Breathwork.
Cool. So
yeah.
there's many different kinds of breath work, right? Because
Yes.
like you said, you did the one in Bali, which is probably less intense. I mean,
Yes.
I know the one that you do is
Yeah.
holotropic breathing.
No.
No.
No, so holotropic breathing is created by, is it Stan Holotropic? I think his name is. Stanaf, you can Google it. And
Ruth, what do you got?
holotropic breathing is created by Stanaf.
It's loading. Okay. So, yeah, it explains what holotropic breathing is. Accelerated breathing to increase awareness of self as a way to cope with traumas from the past.
Google who created
it.
Hold on. Let's search. Stanislav Grof.
Stanislav Grof.
Yes.
Stanislav Grof. So holotropic breathing is 1 in, 1 out.
Mm.
So it's all about ratios when it comes to breathing. So
Okay.
he created the, and when you do like holotropic breathing, sometimes the sessions are like 2 hours long of just breathing like that and going into such a deep state in your mind. You travel into complete alternate consciousness.
And that was super big in like the 70s and 80s, right?
Yeah, I don't know a huge amount about the history, so I don't want to butcher it.
Okay.
But I think it was around the 80s where it started to be a thing, and then it drifted off, and then I think the science has now come in to back up what it is. So what I do is something called the 3-part breath. Very similar. So it's all under the tree of conscious connected breathing, or some people call it somatic breathing. The technical name is conscious connected breathing. Basically, all that means is there's no break in the breath, and you breathe rapidly. So when you breathe normally, you'll probably notice it now. When you breathe in, there's a little pause, and then when you breathe out, there's a little pause, and when you breathe in, there's a little pause, and so on and so on. Conscious connected breathing is about having no pause. Or in my case, okay, so there's no break between it. Now, rapid breathing is what actually creates the effect in the body. Like, just from doing that, I went a little bit dizzy, a little bit spacey there. Because you're lowering the CO2 in the body by off-gassing it super fast, and your body can't replace the CO2 fast enough. And we need CO2 to allow oxygen release in the body. So there's a protein called the hemoglobin protein, and that carries the oxygen around the body, and it releases it to the tissues and cells and the brain and everything. Great. So the slower you breathe, this is parasympathetic breathing, the more oxygen that's being released in the body. But we do the opposite. We activate the stress response and the cortisol response and adrenaline and lots of lovely neurotransmitters. So when you breathe fast, there's the hemoglobin protein holds onto the oxygen because there's not enough CO2 in the blood. So lower CO2 means less oxygen release. Higher CO2 means more oxygen release. We do the less. That's why you get all these lovely feelings in the body and tetany, and your hands cramp up, your lips cramp up, because there's a low CO2 tolerance, so there's not enough oxygen getting to the body. There's also something to do with calcium ions being restricted as well from the release of the red blood cells. So that's why you get this, and then you basically, your body goes in something called vasoconstriction or vasoconstriction, depending which country you're from, and then you go into something called hypocapnia. So hypocapnia is when the brain goes, there is a lack of oxygen. We need to protect the hard drive. So it sends the oxygen away from your prefrontal cortex to your limbic system being your memories and emotions. So now we're lowering the oxygen to your logical brain, the one that evaluates risk every day, but it's also the one that tells you you can't do stuff because 10 years ago, this traumatic thing happened and now you're scared of that, and it reminds you, and it's also the one that stops you from processing your memories because it's too hard to think about, right? It hurts. So your logical brain goes, no, this hurts, stop, pull away. So we make that quiet. We take that out of the way. And then we send oxygen to the limbic system, and so your amygdala and hippocampus, your memories and emotions, can just come up and be processed in the moment and get rewired in the moment without your prefrontal cortex stopping you. At the same time, you're releasing dopamine throughout, and if you breathe deep, which you'll know, you breathe deep and you go through the discomfort, your pineal gland lights up because it thinks there's something wrong in the body, and then it will start to release something called DMT, so the spirit molecule, which obviously we all know can make you high, and it can take you into an alternate state of consciousness within your brain. So not only are your memories and emotions coming up, you're now going into an alternate state of consciousness to deal with them, disconnecting from the body and allowing the body to somatically release. So this is where the word somatic breathing comes from, because when you breathe like this, you release trauma from the body. Make sense?
Yes, there's a lot of scientific stuff in there that goes a little bit beyond me.
Slower it down.
But
Yeah.
because I find a lot of parallels. I've been meditating for a very long time. My father taught me how to meditate when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
So I've meditated for quite some time and been able to feel my chi, for example. And I find that when I do the breath work, it's like meditation but on steroids to an extent, especially in terms of feeling chi. Like when you get the tetany,
feels like
and you feel this energy, you know, I mean, that amplifies. I feel that it amplifies your energy. And when we did it yesterday, with a bunch of friends of mine, right, I could tell that, you know, some people were feeling that for the first time. Like they never felt their body produce that kind of energy before, and it was a bit of a shock to them. I bet you get that all the time.
Yes, I do.
Right? But when I did it for the first time, I knew what it was because I'd been doing it for many years, but I'd never felt it to that intensity before. And my body was just ringing like a bell. I mean, I was vibrating. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but the first time that we did a session, I told you I thought I was going to levitate. I mean, my body was just vibrating. And that continues to happen every time I've done it. It's this almost this ringing feeling, and I wonder if that's induced. I wonder if that has to do with the binaural beats as well, because that's putting different frequencies into each ear. And it's doing something with the frequency that you're resonating at. Okay, so that's the interesting thing about you is that not only are you a breathwork master, you're also an engineer, like a sound editor. So you know
I wouldn't go as far as saying engineer. I'm not that good.
Okay,
but I'm a very good sound editor.
Right.
And I know how to create the beats and all the frequencies and stuff.
Right. So could you explain that process?
Yeah. So what you're feeling is a combination of the breath work and also the sound that you're hearing. So binaural beats are funny because if you have a correct binaural beat, you can do this and you'll just hear beep, beep, put it together. Ooh, 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 ooh. Have you ever tried this?
Yes, I think so. But wait, hold on. Let's back up for a second. I want to paint a picture for our listeners.
Okay,
right?
go on.
So just to understand, when you're doing Brendon's breath work, you have your eyes are closed with a mask.
So
you have
completely immersed.
Noise canceling headphones on. And you're totally relaxed.
Yes.
Okay.
Just when you're doing the breathing, you're not relaxed. But the last part is. So there's so many things I want to say. So let's start with the breathing. Well, we take you into a stress response. So that isn't necessarily the meditative part. In fact, that's the opposite to meditation. Meditation takes you into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, and allows more oxygen to be released. When you're doing the main breathing part, which is where all the trauma releases and all the blocked emotions come out, and you cry your heart out and you shake and you scream, that is sympathetic. So that's where we lower the CO2 and we hit that stress response and we push the body to a limit, basically. But by doing that, when we drop into the slow breathing at the end, there's something called the rebound effect, where if you imagine this is your baseline, we take you up here, you don't drop to the baseline, you drop below the baseline into your parasympathetic, in like deep, relaxive state. And now the CO2 is rushing back into the body, the oxygen's finally going to all the extremities, and you've gone from being locked, to woof, to a sudden hit of oxygen through the body. So it creates this euphoria feeling, you know, and you're probably already in the alternate state of consciousness at this point, and you just come out of it with this buzzing sensation all around your body, and everything tingles like energy. Now, combine that with the sound effects, and I won't tell you which frequencies I use, because that's kind of like the secret sauce, right? There are very kind of structured frequencies that everybody uses. But I'm a geek, so I experimented a lot with the hertz I use between. Okay, so binaural beats, you have, let's say you wanted to do 4 hertz, which is on the border of sleep and theta, right? So you would say you do 100 on one ear, 104 on the other ear. Or you could do 900, 904. It doesn't matter which frequency you use, it's the difference between the 2 frequencies. So let's say 100, because that's quite a low, like a low one. So this would just be, this would be, and that's a massive difference. But if you imagine it on a computer, so when you put them together, you hear. So the problem we have going back is a lot of these YouTube videos, for example, you can hear it with only one headphone, which is not a correct binaural beat. Yeah. So it's like a phenomenon that happens that when you put 2 single tones in each ear, in your mind, it goes woo, 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 woo. So you're retuning your mind to a certain frequency. So as you know, the frequencies, I think it's delta, theta, I'm going to butcher it, gamma's the top one. There's 2 more between. I always forget the names. Alpha, delta, theta, alpha. I think alpha is in the middle. Something, beta, gamma.
Okay.
I think that's right. They're the 5, but I can't remember the order every time. And so obviously, oh, bang on. So delta is sleep. It's the lowest. It's like 4 and below. And then it's 4 to 8, 8 to 12, and so on and so on. And then taking it right up into gamma, it's like, you're wired. You're absolutely on fire with your brain. So binaural beats they help your brain go into a certain brainwave. So for example, if I'm working, I would literally I'd create a binaural beat in the moment and just put it into whatever frequency I want to be working at.
So is there a difference? So you just did an example, you did 4 hertz,
yeah.
Right? So 900 to 904.
Yeah.
What if I did, 875 and 900? Like a 25 hertz difference. What is,
so 25 would be into the gamma range.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
gamma, is that correct? Beta. So really? So beta is the top one.
13 to 30 is beta and above is gamma.
Okay, so gamma's the top one.
Yeah.
And that's above 30.
Yeah.
I swear it's 25. So yeah, that one.
Okay, so gamma. So if you, so the larger the difference, that's how you determine what wave of
you're so
in. Okay.
The shorter the distance, the slower it is, and it will be in sleep.
Okay.
And then the higher you go, the further out of sleep you go from.
Wow.
If you think of it that way.
That's fascinating.
So if you want to get super focused, 25 difference would be teaching your brain to move faster at a different frequency.
That is very interesting.
Or if you want it to slow down, listen to 4 hertz difference at night. If you go on like Spotify and type in 4 hertz sleep, you'll find it. Ideally, you want to go to 1 and 2 hertz. That will take you into a deep sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is fascinating to me because this is like hacking your brain.
Yes.
With sound waves.
It's biohacking. It's completely biohacking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And along with that, I put a solfeggio frequency sometimes. Well, I tweak it off the solfeggios. No, I won't say too much. Solfeggio frequencies, which are all designed to harmonize with different parts of the bodies. And if you believe in chakras, they are harmonizing in chakras.
Well, if I remember my first session with you, you said it was the root. I had a massive burst of energy come from the base of my spine, almost near my butt. You said that was like the root chakra, like opening up, and it was it was powerful. I mean, I had a giant white flash of light in my face, like boom, and it was an unbelievable feeling, and it lasted for an hour afterwards.
Yeah.
And I could feel the energy oscillating up and down my spine, from the root all the way to my head. But where it really exploded was down at the base of my spine.
Yeah. I think it was Sasha that said root chakra. Yeah. I think because I don't actually know much about that. I'll be dead honest. Like everyone thinks I'm this woo-woo person that's into all the spirituality, and I'm not. I just love breathwork and I love sound and I love what it does to your body. So when people talk about chakras, I kind of check out because I don't know enough about it. So I think Sasha, because she's a yoga teacher, so she knows all of this stuff, I go, okay. But I believe, this is what I'm getting to, is I believe it's vibrations. So you can detect a person's vibrations within 2 meters away. So for example, I think we're just out of each other's vibrations. Whereas if we stood closer and I'm vibrating at a high level, I could potentially influence your vibrations up, or you could influence mine down. So it's the same way when you're in a relationship, right? I think a lot of people call it, is it karmic intelligence or something like that, where let's say I have very high frequency or karma, depending what you want to call it, and this person has very low karma and low frequency. We would technically meet in the middle. So I would bring her up and she'd bring me down. So if I was to leave that person, mine would go back up again.
Right.
Or vice versa, I could be brought up to that. So it depends on, my theory is it's the vibrations of the body. And different parts of your body can vibrate at different times. So there's two theories. Again, I'm not sure which one I fall on yet, is that every part has its own frequency. Or what I believe is that, let's say you're in line in a specific frequency, and it's a high frequency, and your whole body's in line, perfect. You are balanced, you're in harmony, great. And then you have a gut problem, and that one goes out to the side, and it's at a different frequency now. It's not in line with your body. Does that make sense? So I have a working theory, so don't quote me on this, is that chakras and vibrations are basically the same thing. And this is why Sophigo frequencies are so connected with the different chakras of the body.
That's fascinating. No, because I think vibration.
But again, I'm still working this through in my head. I'm still a child of learning. I never stop.
Frequency. I mean, first of all, what you were saying with the up and the low, I think that also can come back to like neurolinguistics programming and even sales, right? I used to be in sales a long time ago.
Okay.
And that's something that you find when you're making a sale with somebody, you need to be on the same wavelength, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And there are times when somebody's very upset and you're really high, and there's a huge gap, right?
Yeah.
So what the salesperson's job is to bring that gap together.
Yeah.
And the way you do it is let's say this person's very upset, then you get very upset as well. And that brings you down. Now that goes against intuition because you're a salesman, you're trying to be nice, you're trying to be friendly.
Yeah.
But if somebody's very upset and then all of a sudden you get very upset, you guys all of a sudden somehow start to
balance out.
And then you can control the scenario by slowly bringing them up to where they need to be in order to gain that sale.
Yeah.
And that's something that's taught through neurolinguistics programming, and I guess it's kind of manipulative in a sense. But I think that's something that happens with breath work too, is like you're turning yourself into this like putty where you can mold yourself, right? Yes. Now, getting back to the vibrations and frequency.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with frequency, right? Like when you're having a conversation with somebody, sometimes they're just talking, and you're getting more tired and more tired. And you're just getting your energy drained, right?
Energy drainers,
and that's because you guys aren't on the same wavelength. You're not on the same frequency. No. But when you are, it's like we're vibrating, we're resonating together.
Yeah.
Because you're bouncing ideas off me, I'm bouncing ideas off you, and we're just flowing, we're hitting it back and forth. And it's like we are essentially in the same wavelength. We are feeling the same vibe, right? And that's why it's like vibing.
Yeah. I agree completely, 100%.
So to go a little deeper into this, right? Because you've got me going now, and I'm really interested in frequencies and vibrations. Okay. And the binaural beats is fascinating to me because I know that there's a place in the United States called the Monroe Institute, and this was developed. These theories were developed by a man named Robert Monroe. Who was a radio engineer, a sound engineer, and I guess somehow one day he stumbled upon binaural beats, and he realized that it was doing something to his body, so he got really interested in it. I think this is back in the 70s, right? And he started experimenting on these protocols, and then he created this institute called the Monroe Institute that only studies consciousness, and it studies the nature of reality. And he did it originally because he was able to do out-of-body experiences by listening to these binaural beats. And it's something that I've actively tried to do during meditation, and I've never achieved it, unfortunately. I've come pretty close, I think, but I've never been able to achieve an out-of-body experience. People previously would call it astral projection, right?
Okay, yeah.
So, and then that in turn led to something called remote viewing, which is essentially being able to put your intention, your will, anywhere in the world.
Okay.
So being able to focus on a singular point in time and space anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And this has been studied. The CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, has actually commissioned the Monroe Institute years ago to study this phenomenon.
Okay.
And they funded many programs called remote viewing programs. I think it was called Project Stargate.
Okay.
And, and they were very successful in some cases.
Yeah.
They hired remote viewers to find under Jimmy Carter's administration to find an airplane that was downed in Africa. They couldn't find it. It was somewhere in the jungle. They brought in a remote viewer from Project Stargate, connected to CIA. That person pinpointed the location of this airplane, and it was crucial to national security because they were fighting against the Russians to get there because I think it had some sort of material on it, right?
Right.
But the point is that the CIA spent a lot of money studying this, and there's declassified reports that you can look through Freedom of Information Act, and it tells you it tells you the protocols of the Monroe Institute, and some of it has to do with binaural beats and meditative states. And being able to get into a space where you can actively move your consciousness around this realm.
Nice.
So there's a lot to it. There's a lot of interesting stuff to it. And now, what I find interesting, you're talking about this binaural beats, because I've been studying anomalous phenomenon for decades.
Yeah.
And there used to be a show on the History Channel called Stan Lee's Superhumans.
Okay.
And they would go around the world and find people that are extraordinary in something.
Okay.
And there was this one guy I remember. I'd love to get this guy on the podcast one day, but he's in the United States. His name is Guy Balvenie or something like that. And he was a magician, right?
Yeah.
However, he was able, Stan Lee or somebody had a pen in a cup.
Right.
And he was sitting where you're sitting. And he was able to use his mind to move the pen. So we're talking about telekinesis now, right?
Right.
Now they didn't consider him a superhuman because they couldn't understand what was happening.
Got it.
But what they did, they had brain sensors all over his head while he was doing it. And at the instant that the pen moved, his gamma waves spiked.
Okay.
So to me, that's fascinating. The fact that you can create your brain in a sense of gamma waves, like using binaural beats, perhaps you could somehow train to become telekinetic. I know we're getting into speculative space here.
This is why I'm letting you talk now.
But that's fun. I mean, because people are looking into this. I mean, there's a lot of parapsychologists. They look into, telekinesis, remote viewing.
You know, the first thing I do when I get home is create a crazy gamma binaural beat and just listen for 2 hours and be like, let's see if this is real.
Dude, let's collaborate on it, all right?
If I appear in your bedroom waving at you, you know why.
Well, the gamma one would be for telekinesis.
Which
you'd
was
have
the
to try to move
teleportation
something.
one?
You'd have to, I don't know what the remote viewing. I don't know what their I don't know what their rates are. I don't know what their difference in frequencies is for the binaural.
Okay, I'll find out.
All right, it gets weirder.
This is where I get geeky.
Let's get more geeky. Let's get more weird. So what they're also using Monroe Institute protocols for and binaural beats is for summoning UFOs.
Ah.
So there was a whistleblower that came out 2 weeks ago. His name was Jake Barber.
Yeah.
And this guy was part of a crash retrieval team for the United States retrieving UFOs, okay?
Yeah.
He came out on News Nation. He did a 2-hour interview. He testified to Congress and to the Senate. They verified his background. He was a helicopter pilot. He released a video of him retrieving an egg-shaped craft that was totally white.
Yeah.
And they had a camera planted on the helicopter at night, and they retrieved it, they brought it somewhere, and they dropped it off. Yeah. And now this guy has, and they went out to say, how are we retrieving these things? How come there's an intact craft on the ground, right? Yeah. His explanation for that was that there are United States defense contractors that use certain types of technology to sort of summon these UFOs, whether it's like they're using microwaves, like pulsed microwaves. And then they're trying to take these UFOs down with a pulsed microwave weapon. Right. And that would bring it down, okay? That's one way. The other way is by using these remote viewers. Yeah. I know this sounds bizarre, all right? And I'm not saying it's real. I'm just saying what this guy has said. And it's very possible that it is real. Yeah. Because apparently some of these craft are controlled by consciousness. Like that's the technology behind the craft. Okay.
So in theory, if there was aliens that existed, the idea is that they've developed to a point of their brain where telekinesis, where they can contact through thought, so therefore they can control machinery through thought.
Correct.
Right, got it.
Correct. I mean, well, in holographic universe theory, that you could materialize matter through thought as well, and that's a theory that's quite prevalent these days. But anyway, so the other means of bringing these craft down, or at least summoning these craft, is through using binaural beat, meditation, and somehow using intent to call these craft.
Okay.
And apparently they're looking for people that are psychically have psychic instincts, that have their intuitive side of the brain very developed. Okay.
Yeah.
But I find it fascinating that it all connects with binaural beats, because I mean, even when I'm doing it, right, and you're hearing, I'm feeling my body resonate at the that.
Well, the binaural beats will resonate with your brain, not so much with your body. It's the solfeggio frequency that resonates with the body.
Then why is my whole body going?
You want the science reason?
Yeah, let's hear the science reason.
The science reason is the low CO2 and the low oxygen going to your muscles, causing the tingles and the lightheadedness and the cramps.
Yeah, but I'm not getting tingles. I'm getting.
It's different for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that energy source that you talk about could just be tingles.
I think it's chi. I do.
And I hope it is. I really, really do.
I think it is.
I do think it charges, like, don't get me wrong, breathing the way I teach you to breathe charges the energy of your body. That's true. It literally increases your energy in the body. But that's from lowering your oxygen and shooting your oxygen back up and dropping you into the parasympathetic and so on. So throwing your body on this roller coaster will create that feeling of energy and
focus.
Yeah, serious focus.
I had the breathwork effect on the golf course this morning. I shot 3 under what I usually shoot.
I love that.
So yeah, I think the binaural beat thing is very interesting, combining with the breathwork.
Yeah.
Because it's not, like I said, with these other protocols, they're also doing some sort of breathwork. I don't know what it is. I'm not read into it, but it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Love it. I can't talk into UFOs and I can't talk into aliens. But one thing I always say on this subject is we'd be so arrogant to think that we are the only people here. That's what I believe. I believe there's got to be something out there, right?
It'd be a big waste of space.
Definitely not going to walk around with a tinfoil hat. But if they come in, they come in. There's nothing we're doing about it. Yeah.
Well, they think the working hypothesis is that they're more interdimensional than coming from another planet, that we actually share the same space.
Ah,
which is
like
why
the multiverse.
Exactly.
So I'm a Marvel geek.
There you go. Which is why they're so concerned with nuclear facilities, because whenever there's a nuclear accident, all of a sudden you start seeing lights in the sky.
Oh.
Like during the latest one, Fukushima.
Yeah.
There were tons of UFO videos that came out from Japanese people.
Yeah.
And almost like they were monitoring the place. Yeah. Yeah, you get on this podcast, you might get 1 or 2 UFOs.
I'm just waiting for the conversation about AI and how it's going to ruin the world.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is that it can't take our breath away.
Yeah.
So we if anything, we'll get
That's
better.
a tag
at
on my
breath
dating
work.
app. I'll take your breath away. No, actually, it's I'll make you shake, I'll make you shake, sweat, scream, and I'll take your breath away. Not literally. I'm joking.
No, that's a good one. But seriously, like with AI, the breath work, I think this kind of thing is going to be more and more explored by more and more people.
Of course. Yeah.
You know.
Even do you follow Brian Johnson, the guy that doesn't want to die?
Yeah.
He talks about breath work on a few things.
Gary Brecka, he's big on the breath work. He recommends doing 30 large inhale and exhales every morning.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because for him, it's slowly. For him, it's all about oxygenation, like oxygenating the body.
Yeah, so to do that, you have to slow your breath down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really, it's called the resonance breath. So the idea is that you breathe in for 5 or 6 seconds, you breathe out for 5 or 6 seconds, 5 or 6 breaths per minute. And it's like the middle ground, the perfect ground to get a nice CO2 release, release more oxygen into your body and oxygenate your body. It helps your heart, it reduces your heart variability, it increases your digestion, immune system, metabolism. Yeah, so every day I do that at some point. I'll sit and I'll just have a slow breath, which most people would call meditation. I just call breathing. Because I do it while I'm driving sometimes. I'll just slow it down. Yeah, even when you're talking, I'm thinking about my breath. To just keep it slow, up in and out.
Yeah, I mean, when I meditate, I think about breath. Breath is super important, and it's where you can feel the energy coming in and out, at least within my meditative state.
Yes.
So there's obviously a lot of different techniques for breathing. Do you mind going into a couple of different ones?
Yeah, so it always falls on the two sides. You've got the parasympathetic breaths and then you've got the sympathetic breath. So sympathetic is the increasing of the stress and the cortisol and activates your body like crazy. Parasympathetic is the opposite. It relaxes you, rest and digest. Okay? So let's talk about the slow ones. So there's a really simple one, which is a kind of quick reset breath. So I call it the reset breath. I don't actually know the official name, but breathing is all about ratios. If you think when you breathe in, your heart speeds up. When you breathe out, your heart slows down. So it's common sense. If you extend the exhale, then your heart's going to slow down, which means you'll relax. So the reset breath is super simple. You take a short, sharp breath in through your nose when it's not too blocked, and you blow out the mouth over like 8 seconds. One more, and out over 8. Okay, and even in 2 breaths, you already notice everything just starts to settle.
Yeah, you feel grounded,
yeah,
right?
you relax. So that's the quickest way. And then the more famous one is the box breath, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, in for hold for 4. And this one's supposed to be best for anxiety and stress. So, ready?
Yeah.
So go in for 1, 2, 3, 4. So you go 2, 3, 4, hold. Out and hold. In. Hold. And 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah? And this one will bring your sympathetic down pretty fast. It's a combination of the breath holds as well, because when you hold your breath, CO2 increases faster because there's nowhere for it to go, so it goes up higher, so you get more oxygen around your body.
There's definitely a change in.
Yeah.
I mean,
even the vibrations, right? If we're going back to that,
Yeah.
it feels like a little bit of a change. We just dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
It's nice.
You're definitely changing the state, your state of your body.
Another great one to try is 4-7-8. So we always call it numbers. 4 seconds in, hold for 7, out for 7. That's supposed to be like the perfect equilibrium for the most relaxing breath.
I've used that to go to sleep. Apparently, Navy
Yes.
SEALs use that trick to go to sleep.
Yes, I do it most nights. It doesn't help me that much. I'll be honest, I think I'm different. So I do an activating breath and then go into the 4-7-8. So I have a theory. So remember I told you about the rebound effect. If you activate yourself, put yourself into a high stress response, and then you drop, like you rebound into the lower part of the parasympathetic, and then you are more likely to fall asleep. Do you want to try? All right, let's do this. All right, we'll do 50 breaths, in and out, holotropic breathing, like you were talking about earlier. 1 minute breath hold, and then we'll go straight into the 4-7-8.
How many breaths? 50?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I'd sit up for this.
All right.
Okay, sit up. Okay, we'll try and do belly breathing. So we're not going to get too activated, but it doesn't matter, wherever the oxygen goes.
Okay.
And then we need a timer for a 1 minute timer. So if you get up on your phone or something, and I'll say, and hold your breath, set the timer.
Okay.
Okay? You'll probably better hold your breath a lot longer, so maybe we'll just see how long.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 minute timer, you said?
Yeah, 1 minute timer.
Okay.
You ready? So we're going to do 50 breaths first, just in and out. That's 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Big deep breaths all through the mouth. Fill up everything, let out. Ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1, and halfway. Ready? 3, 2, 1 second. And hold. Now breathe in for 4. One more. How you feeling?
Feel good.
Right?
I feel really,
Messed
really
up.
good.
Love it.
When we were doing the breaths, the
3
50,
minutes. That's 3 or 4 minutes. That's all it took.
that was amazing.
Yeah.
I started crying, dog.
And that happens too. If you've never done this, emotions come up fast.
Shit, I started fucking bawling. That's crazy.
When we were doing the 50 breaths,
Yeah.
the colors started to change. Like everything got more yellow.
Yeah.
I started getting different colors. And I felt real strong in terms of holding the breath. Like that
Yeah.
1 minute, I was feeling good during the 1 minute.
You probably could have gone a lot longer.
Which leads me to a question.
Go on.
Because it reminds me of these Hollywood actors, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody's talking about, oh, Kate Winslet did this 7-minute breath hold. Tom Cruise did this 4-minute breath hold. Because I do free diving also, so I free dive.
It's literally what I
Right?
was
So
gonna
I'm
say, yeah.
always trying to learn how to hold my breath longer.
Yeah.
Right? So is there a certain technique that you can do to hold your breath longer?
Yes. So the reason you can hold your breath for so long is, remember I was saying earlier, when you breathe like this, you off-gas all the CO2. But the funny thing is you're taking more oxygen in. So that all this oxygen gets into your body and it's going nowhere because it can't go anywhere. So when you hold your breath, suddenly CO2 starts to rise and then the hemoglobin protein goes, great, I can release oxygen. Because you have so much oxygen stored in the body that it's now being released over time. So yeah, when you get better and you practice these techniques again and again and again and again, you can hold your breath for longer and longer and longer. I do a morning breathwork practice where I roughly do 2 minutes of breathing like this, breath hold another 2 minutes, and on the second one I'll hold as long as I can. And I can normally comfortably get to 4 or 5 minutes. And I'm not a free diver, I'm just sat on my balcony in Dubai, and I count it by the songs. So I'll play music and maybe 1.5 songs, sometimes 2 songs go past.
Okay, so to be clear, the
Yeah.
best way to be able to breathe longer
Yeah.
is to just
Charge
train
up.
your body to
Yeah.
just keep breathing, like hyperventilating
Yeah,
essentially.
hyperventilate. So, so let's try something called the dopamine breath because this helps a lot, right? So I don't know if that's the official name. I just feel like it releases a lot of dopamine, right? So we're going to do we'll do a very quick version. I would do this over 5 minutes with a 30 seconds increase each time. But we'll do like 10, 15 seconds we'll increase. We're going to start slow doing the holotropic breath. Then we're going to speed up. Then we're going to speed up. And 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 then you're going to hold your breath for as long as you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
This should
Ready?
be interesting.
Now,
Should I
what
go
you
for a
need-
real breath hold? Should I
Yeah.
go for a real breath hold?
Yeah,
All right,
so-
let's do it.
So you'll probably hold longer than me at the moment. The diaphragm is the muscle you want to focus on. So eventually you want to get it doing this. So like that, okay?
Okay.
Like a dog panting.
Okay.
So we'll start slow and we'll build up to it. But
Okay.
we'll do quite a fast version as well. I'm not. I think I'm going to sneeze. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Okay, ready? So
Yeah.
slow, just in and out first. 7, 8, and just focus on the diaphragm so the chest shouldn't be moving too much. There you go. And every time I do a double click, we're going to get faster.
30 seconds.
I'm there, man. There we go. Yeah?
Michael was like, I can't let them in.
I think that was longer than 1:30.
That felt like 2
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
That was definitely longer than
I was easily
1:30.
over 2 minutes.
We hit few minutes now.
No, I don't think so.
I think it was a bit longer. We'll check it on the tape. And then
Yeah,
we can put it
yeah.
on
Check
the
the
screen.
tape. Check the tape. Woo, I was starting to sweat, man. Whoa.
So I was like, okay, I'll let it out.
I think.
So a free dive would also let it out and then carry on. So,
Right, like in increments.
and then they keep swimming on an empties. However, I don't like breath holds on the out with clients because you can get stuck. You genuinely, they get stuck in such an alternate space of consciousness that sometimes their lips are going blue, their face is going white, and you have to pinch them out of it. So you pinch the nerves in the neck to bring them back. So when you've got a class of 15 people, I can't do that. So I always do breath holds on the in.
Right.
And then, you've done the journeys, they're quite intense musically. So when you're holding it in, it feels more intense as well. So it creates that kind of placebo effect of, everyone's shaking and the veins are going up on the neck and then rah, and then scream it out. So that's why we always do a breath out. That's why I always do it on the in, because eventually your body system will kick in knowing it has to release the breath. Whereas if you've breathed out and you've drifted off, your body doesn't kick in to breathe in.
Wow.
Scary, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Scary stuff.
That's probably how they end up passing out when they do
People
they do
have
breath
died
holds.
from doing breath holds underwater.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite scary.
It's a very dangerous sport.
Yeah. Like
free
never
diving.
do it without anyone having a second spot ever.
Quick question.
Go on.
Like, is like this breathwork euphoria that you feel?
Yeah.
Right?
It's nice, right?
Is it the same, like, humor me a bit? Okay.
That's fine.
So you know how like asphyxiation during sex.
Okay.
can
Wait.
lead to-
Asphyxiation?
Like, is it the same euphoria that you feel? Like, 'cause I don't like being choked, but like
It's
I was
you are
asking,
giving away too much about yourself right now.
I'm just asking.
Now we know a little something about Ruth.
Yeah. Thanks, dudes.
I'm just asking, like, is there a correlation there? That's all.
So obviously, when you're in a breath hold, you are holding your breath. The CO2 is rising, and more oxygen's being released. You're also releasing a lot more dopamine.
Right.
So the happy transmitters, And eventually, if you're in trouble, your brain releases DMT.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's when you get a lot of the happy hormones and a lot of the happy neurotransmitters.
makes sense.
Yeah. Breath holds are beautiful. Honestly, I get clients who come a lot. They'll breath hold for minutes and minutes and minutes. They shouldn't. We actually don't want them to do that because they might get stuck and we've got 15 people to deal with. But there are a few that I know do it on the sly and they just hold for ages because the breath holds feel amazing, especially when you've charged your body up so much with the breathing before. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I felt on the first go around. When we did the 50 breaths in a row, I was like getting there. I could feel myself getting to that point.
See, for me, you said yours goes quite yellow. Mine goes blurry. So everything starts to sparkle a little bit more and it goes a little bit blurry. And I feel like I'm disconnecting a little bit. Disassociation, that's the word.
I definitely got some of that vignette going around the
Yeah.
outside.
I love that part. Everything just becomes a little bit more focused. Yeah, it's nice.
But it was weird because, if you smoke weed, sometimes if you get high, it's like colors get brighter, colors get more clarity, right? And that's almost how I started feeling with the breath. It's just, to me, it's just fascinating. Like the breath is really one of the biggest instruments we have in being able to hack our body.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I always get asked, I find it a silly question. Why is the breath so important? I'll say, well, stop breathing for 10 minutes and you can tell me how important it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd say that, I mean, it's the one thing that we can control, right? I mean, other than attempting to control your thoughts and your mind, but from a physical standpoint, like, you can control your breath.
Yes, you can. And you don't need to all at the same time. Your autonomic nervous system does that for you, but actively breathing is what I focus on, getting people to actively breathe. Because if you think about it, going back many, many years, we breathe 6 to 8 breaths a minute. The average now is between 20 and 30 breaths per minute. So remember what I said about CO2 tolerance is the faster you breathe, the less CO2 you have, the less oxygen you release. So if we're breathing 20 breaths per minute, we don't have a lot of oxygen being released in our body. That's why we're tired. That's why our immune system's not working. That's why our digestive system's not working. That's why we're stuck in fight or flight, Because when you're breathing that fast, it's normally a stress response, and cortisol gets released into the body. When cortisol gets released, it takes all of its energy away from your systems and your hormone system. So now your digestive system's not working, your immune system's not working, your metabolic system's not working, your thyroid's not working. There's so many things that work less because we're breathing so much.
Why is that? Why has our breathing rate increased so much over the years? Do you have any idea?
So let's imagine many, many, many years ago, we lived in a countryside. We wake up, we toddle over, we go and feed the animals, a very relaxed life. Go back even further, you wake up in a cave. Your only fear was getting eaten by a lion, right? There was no stress. Now you wake up beep, 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 to an alarm that's appropriately called an alarm. And then you check your phone, you look at blue light. So your brain now thinks it's 2 o'clock in the middle of the day, and you freak out and you go from data all the way up through the brain waves instantly, when you should gradually wake up over 90 minutes roughly. So now you're instantly in stress response. The second you wake up, then you get outside and you've got the wife, the kids, whatever it is, there's other stresses happening, and you're already checking your emails and reading messages and social media, which is now, that's just like a scrolling of micro triggers. Everything is comparison. Everything is that person's doing better than me. Great, now I feel like shit. So now you haven't even left the house yet. Then you've got to drive to work, and then you've got work, and you have to deal with a boss that you don't like, or a colleague you don't like, in a cubicle which is like caved in. You're not out in nature where there's these beautiful things to look at. Our brain isn't designed to look at squares and shapes and stuff like that. We have to think harder to understand what we're looking at. That's why when you go to nature, because there's no symmetry, there's no nothing, that our brain understands, so we relax. And then grounding ourselves with the floor and getting the vibrations through the floor as well. And now we're at the middle of the day, we've got to have lunch, and we eat some crappy food that isn't really good for us because we need to get a quick bite. And then work finishes, we've got to get home, then we've got to cook dinner. And then we're so tired by that point because our adrenal gland is so exhausted from releasing cortisol all day. We have cortisol burnout, and then we do this. Netflix.
Right.
Wake up, and now we've just fell asleep. That means we're not going to sleep properly tonight. We won't get a proper sleep. We've been drinking coffee all day. There's caffeine stuck in our system, so we can't go into a deep restorative sleep. I could go on, obviously.
Yeah.
Think of our day now compared to the day of our only worry was, where's our next meal coming from?
Yeah, I would add to that, I think something probably added to that would be the preservatives in the food and the ungodly amount of weight gain that we've had across the board over the years, right?
Yeah.
If you're carrying more weight, it's harder to move around, so you're gonna have to breathe more. You're gonna have to use more energy for the machine.
Well, this is the thing. So it's like a vicious circle, right? The food is crap. Let's be honest. Even what we perceive as fresh fruit has been covered in preservatives, and covered in preservatives, the wrong words. Whatever you use to grow it so fast, to get it so plump, to get it so red, to get it so, these weren't naturally in these vegetables many years ago. So even at the base level, we're just getting crap in our food. Now, if we are breathing in this way all day and we are in sympathetic nervous system all day, our cortisol's being released, that means our digestive system isn't working properly, nor is our immune system or our metabolism. The 3 things you need to lose weight or stay slim. I eat like a pig. I eat so much food every day.
Yeah. You want some? You want some of this?
Give it to me. Give it to me. And the funny thing is, I'm not in the best shape I've been in. I used to do fitness modeling years ago, and I was hench. And I've just realized that life doesn't have to be so stressful. You can wait. My morning routine is beautiful. I do one thing I shouldn't, which is drink coffee straight away. I wake up, I've got a cave of a room. I've blacked out all the windows. There is no lights in there at all. Any plug lights, I've taped. So when it's dark, I can't see a thing. I have an alarm clock that glows up slowly over 5 minutes to wake me up. And then it plays bird noises. So I feel like I'm in the forest. I get out, I make my coffee, sip my coffee for a bit, haven't touched my phone yet. Go and sit on the balcony, listen to some music, and start doing my breath work. Go through that, then I have my red light therapy lamp, my red light therapy hat, hence why I have such beautiful hair. And I have this kind of morning routine that lasts me anything from 30 to 45 minutes. It should be 90, but even I can't achieve that. Feels like an impossible task. So I have all these things I go through, and then I check my phone. When I'm fully awake and I'm ready to deal with whatever's about to come up, I'm in a better place because I've already reset my nervous system. My vagus nerve is fully engaged and allowing me to sit in my parasympathetic. So even if I see something stressful, I go, oh, cool, I'll deal with it now. Easy.
You're getting your vitamin D on the
Oh,
balcony.
I love the vitamin D. I love the red light from the sun in the morning. You know, I did try a bit of sun gazing once, but it's not for me. Every day, look directly at the sun, and I was like, I just go blind for 10 minutes afterwards. So I stopped doing
You
that.
can only do that at sunrise and sunset.
Yeah, my balcony, literally, I see the sun popping up in the distance. So if you think of Dubai, I live just outside of the main areas.
Okay.
So there's not many tourists and not much going on. So there's like a nice open space on my balcony. It's all desert, but it's a nice open space.
Nice, yeah.
So I see the sun coming up.
Yeah, I have to go. I've only been to Dubai a couple of times in transit, but it's been a while. It's been like 10 years. So
oh my
it's
God,
time to
it's
come back.
completely different.
I
to
saw the
10 years
Burj,
ago,
yeah, but okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
it's such an open country now. Well, Dubai's not a country, obviously, UAE, but Dubai as a city within the country is such an open place now. You know, it's not what everyone thinks it is. I still talk to people, yeah, but can women drive? I said, well, that was Saudi, that was not Dubai, but okay. You know, but yes, they can drive. So they're allowed, yes. Can they? Yes. Yes. Everything you're going to say, yes, you can do. You know, there's still this kind of stigma around the world that it's really, really restricted and women don't have the best life. Women have more privilege than men in Dubai. They get so much female privilege, honestly. It's one of the best places to be in the world, I think, and it's so safe.
Right.
You know, I really notice it when I go back to England, like how safe I feel in Dubai compared to England, you know. Silly things like I'll be in England and my phone will be on the table and I kind of go, oh shit, I shouldn't do that. Because I've seen people have their phones taken off tables. In Dubai, you can leave your phone on the table, walk away, go to the toilet, come back, chat to a friend, still there.
Cleanliness?
Oh my God, the public toilets are cleaner than your home toilet. It's madness. I find that the funniest thing in the world. You go into any of the malls and they have like 2 people working in every toilet. You pee. So funny.
That was something that stuck with me. I remember in the airport, you go in the toilet, guy goes in and cleans it immediately.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Brilliant. The public toilets are cleaner than your home toilets, and that is almost a guarantee.
Amazing.
It's getting cleaned all day. But yeah, I love Dubai. Anyway, we drifted off there. Where were we? We were on something cool.
We were originally talking about the different types of breaths.
Yeah.
So we went through several of them.
Yeah, we went through parasympathetic, and then
We
I
did a
taught you
bunch
through
of them.
sympathetic, yeah.
Right. And then,
So one's activating, one's relaxation.
right, and we were
Think of
talking.
it that way.
Okay. And then we went into the free diving.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
did a bit.
yeah, I mean, I've done a ton of free dives. So
Yeah.
I was off scuba diving for several years, and I just got into free diving and going down, 30 meters or
It's
whatever.
one of the things I would love to learn. I'm not going to lie. The minute I can afford to move away and live in South Asia somewhere, I'm going to learn to dive. It's something I've always wanted to do.
Oh,
Always.
diving?
Yeah, diving and then free diving as well.
Yeah, diving itself is, you can obviously stay down there longer, but it's another world. I mean, it's the closest thing to exploring an alien world, I would say, scuba diving.
I've heard that said a few times.
You're,
I would love it.
You're just a visitor.
Yeah.
And they know it, and you know it, and you
that.
just chill.
Oh
and
my
you
God, that'd be
observe a
amazing,
whole
yeah.
new world. Yeah.
Yeah, that's on my list. So my aim at the moment is I'm dedicating the next 1.5 to 2 years to IMD. Obviously, I have my other career as a creative, film director, choreographer. I'm taking less work on that side now, so I can focus on this side because I feel like it's growing so fast. I'd be absolutely silly to take my foot off the gas now.
Where do you have locations now with IMD Breathwork?
So we've got, I think now 4 in the UK. So London, Birmingham, Bournemouth, and I think Manchester's opening up soon. We've got Perth and Melbourne opening in Australia. We've got one in Phuket, here in Kuala Lumpur. We just opened up Singapore. There's more, and I can't think of it. We're in Brasov in Romania. Brilliant. I know, it's going really well there. Just opened in Milan in Italy. Madrid was opening, but I think there's been a problem with that. I think that's it. I can't remember. There's so many now. I think there's 16 different cities in like 10. San Diego in America.
Wow.
We just opened up in America, first one.
Awesome.
So, and theoretically, we only started taking on international instructors less than 6 months ago.
That's amazing.
So it's gone so big so fast.
So with the growth of this, online, there's a lot of talk of like something happening, like a revolution in consciousness, some sort of a brain shift, right?
Okay.
And I don't know, do you think that showing this kind of growth in this type of a business is an example of that?
There's definitely a shift. Don't get me wrong, there's still the people out there that's like, oh, I wouldn't do that. That's like woo-woo stuff, But I think there is a massive shift over to this. And one thing I think we're doing at IMD is we're trying to bridge that gap between what's woo-woo and what's not. Because you've done the class, you show up, you listen, you listen, you leave. There's no sharing, there's no holding hands, there's no dancing, there's no what a lot of men, for example, would find embarrassing. Not just men, but I'm using them as an example because it's more prominent. Whereas in Dubai, we have roughly 50-50 men and women, which is unheard of in this industry. And the reason is because they don't feel embarrassed or shy or feel like they're going to be made to do something they don't want to do, right? And I think that's what IMD is doing. It's bridging that gap and getting those people who would never normally do this stuff to come and try it. So yeah, I think it's opening people's minds to an alternative of healing because, I'd say mental health became a big topic roughly 10 years ago and people started to really talk about it and talk about therapy. So that's 10 years of therapy, right? And yet...
I'm going to give another Sopranos reference.
Go on.
As a matter of fact, The Sopranos was like a breakthrough moment in men getting therapy because that was the basis of the show. This big alpha male Italian mob boss going to a therapist. And therapists saw their male business rise significantly from that show.
Away. Yeah.
And that was at the beginning of the century. That was
I need to get on a popular
2000s.
show. Okay, let me think. Who do I know?
We're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it. But that's, you're right. And it's 10 years on. People have been doing therapy for 10 years, me potentially 20 years. And it helped to some extent, but it never quite got me past the actual traumas. I just knew they were there. And I'm like, great. Now I know why I do that, but I'm still doing it. It didn't stop me doing it. No matter what I tried. And I tried. And I tried to have willpower over my actions, but it went against everything that I'm feeling. So what am I supposed to do? Am I following my intuition or am I following my prefrontal cortex? 1 minute someone says, follow your gut. Yeah, but if I follow my gut, I'm going to end up arrested. So I'm going to follow the therapist that says you need to just control it. Well, that's going to lead me to a very unhappy, stressful place. Now, breath work. I couldn't explain it at first. I can explain it the best I can now, but I still think there's so much to it that we don't understand yet. It just shifts. The memories don't disappear. We just rewire the way we react to them. So when you rewire the memory, your reaction changes to it and no longer becomes a trigger. So even though it's there and I can still remember some very traumatic experiences in my life, I'm not being triggered by someone talking about it in front of me or someone acting in a certain way anymore. So...
Yeah, I think that's fascinating because you're essentially using the most natural thing that we do in an attempt and with success to physically change your brain from the neocortex to the limbic system. And that reminds me of other therapies that are being used now that are natural but not as natural. We're talking about psilocybin, LSD, ibogaine, right? And what those psychotropic drugs do essentially is your brain has these neural pathways. And over the years, those neurons, they dig deeper and deeper into the same neural pathways. And they tend to stray less and less, which is why you get less creative as you get older. But it also means that your brain reacts the same way to the same problem at the same time. And when you take these psychotropic drugs,
in your fascia.
Exactly, and it digs the ditch deeper and deeper. And when you take these psychotropic drugs, you're able to get off those pathways and create new pathways. And that sounds something very similar to what breathwork is doing.
So it's a good point actually. And one of the key differences, and this is why I edge on the side of breathwork. Don't get me wrong, I love this side too. But I remember everything from that. So I have tried stuff in the past and I came out remembering everything. And there were some real breakthrough moments. I didn't remember that. It's a memory I completely forgot about. But then afterwards I was like, well, now I remember it. I actually need to do something about it. Do you know what I mean? It was almost better before when I didn't have to worry about it because I didn't even remember it. And what I find with breathwork, because we are quieting the prefrontal cortex, because there's lack of oxygen going through it, some people come out these journeys remembering nothing, absolutely zero. And then I speak to them the week after and they're like, I've completely changed. I'll give you a really good example. So when I first started doing it, I had a guy come to class and he was just giving me the eye the whole way through, like the whole intro. I was thinking like, this guy just doesn't like me at all. Real stroppy person. Anyway, he did one, and afterwards he went really deep. He was locked up, crazy. He didn't stop the breathwork once. He was like on it, and he went somewhere. Afterwards, he didn't say a word to me. He was just like this. And I went, "You're right." Like that. Anyway, he left. Came back the next week. Big smile on his face. Big smile. And I went, "You're right, dude." He's like, "Yeah, man." I said, "How was it after last week?" He goes, don't know what the fuck you did to me, but my wife says I'm a nice person now. He was like, she sent me back this week. She said I had to come. And he was like, honestly, my whole perspective on life shifted. I used to get so pissed off at everything. And now I just see the better side of everything. And I just don't get annoyed by anything. It just like water off my back. And he goes, I don't remember a thing that happened last week. I just remember coming out, I felt a bit soreness in my hands and my wrists, and I felt high as fuck. Went home and just slept like a baby, and then almost the next day, I just felt better. And he can't remember a single thing.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, not only do you get these amazing feelings when you're experiencing the breathwork itself, but you take them home with you.
Yes.
And you feel it. Like last night, I felt it all night long. I was way more relaxed with my kids, my family. Yeah. You know, and this morning, like I said, I had a better round of golf.
The best round. I mean, you were relaxed.
I was hitting 20-foot putts.
There was no tension. Yeah. We've reduced your stress and anxiety so far down.
So how often do you think somebody should do breath work?
Okay, so if you're just I do it every week without fail. Okay. I go in, so I have an instructor called Flo in Dubai, and she's like my Dubai instructor. So when I'm away, she covers all my classes. But she has a class every Friday. Every Friday, I'm in that class religiously, and every morning I do my 10-minute breath work. So I do it every week. 2 reasons. One, it helps me a lot. I've really noticed the weeks I've missed that I just feel a bit more tense. My body locks up more, and maybe the stress can hit me a bit quicker. And also, I want to show people that I do what I say. I don't just go, here's a product. I live it myself. So I'm a walking example of what I created. So coming back, what I've noticed, sort of patterns and data, shall we say, is most people come from anything from 5 to 8 sessions, and they normally come back to back, maybe missing a week here and there. And then between 5 and 8 sessions, they just go, I feel amazing. And you can see it, everything drops. They're just smiling, and things have happened for them in their life because they've been in a better perspective, they've been in a better space, opportunities have happened, they just feel great. And then what I find is we see them every once a month maybe after that, or sporadically, and then something happens, knocks them, they come back. And they spend a few weeks dealing with that, and then off they go again. Okay. So it's like they have this kind of hard reset for a few weeks, and then maintenance, and then use it when you need it. I'll give you a prime example. So, it wasn't that long ago, it was only about 4 or 5 months ago. So I met this girl, she was amazing. And I was literally like, I've met the one. It was, honestly, I rarely get kind of drawn in, but this girl just drew me in, and everything was working. There was no push or pull, no games. She seemed so interested in me, and it was just like, oh my God, this is what it's meant to feel like. Every box was ticked. Anyway, so this person lived in a different country, and I agreed to come and see her. And then it was almost instant that the communication just dropped. And it went from like all day long talking and to zoom. And instantly I got this trigger, and my belly hurt and my chest hurt, and I felt tight. I felt sick. I was like, oh my God, I feel like I've been like dumped by a long-term girlfriend. It's weird. So what is this all about? So then I not meditated, but I just kind of sat on it, allowed my brain to do what it needed to do. And I know what to do now. Old Brendon would have distracted himself, would have done everything possible to not think about it until it goes away, right? Which is what most people do. And I went, no, I stopped working. I stopped doing everything. I went to the beach, I sat. I did a 2-hour session on my own. Shit came up. I had this memory of like 8 years ago, a relationship I was in. And it was quite a toxic relationship again. I think it was both ways this time. And this person went on tour, and the communication just died. And it was like, I became this crazy person at home. I became a person I did not want to be. I was checking like when people are on WhatsApp online. I went nuts. Like I was just in this horrible state. And I knew this person wasn't that interested in me anymore, and suspected maybe there was something else going on. So my whole sympathetic nervous system was constantly in play. And it was a horrible time in my life. And then when it ended, I was a broken man for like a few months, cried in bed, wouldn't leave the house, screwed up work commitments. That same feeling came back. After 1 week of knowing this girl. And so what I realized is in 8 years, I'd never had that experience to be triggered again. So I buried it so deep that I've never had an opportunity for it to come back up. So lucky, So then I was like, so you can't just do the breath work and get rid of all traumas. It doesn't work like that. The traumas need to be sparked back up. because I'd never had a situation that had brought it back up to me again. So when it came back, I was like, right, I know what to do. So the first one brought it all back for me. Second session felt a bit better. I did 4 sessions, 4 days in a row, lost my voice. Not because of the breath work. So I get to this. So it depends what you believe as well. So I did 4 sessions. Within a week, I was feeling fine with it. Like it just wasn't bothering me anymore. And I disconnected that situation and I got it out of my life comfortably. Again, another toxic-y situation. I just went, done, don't need it. Got rid of it. So there's a theory. Because I was like, why did I lose my voice? I do breathwork every day. This shouldn't have affected me. And one of my close friends, who's also an instructor of mine, is quite spiritual. And she was like, well, what was the main problem in that old relationship 8 years ago? And I went, oh, bollocks. And she was like, what was it? I was like, I never got to say my piece. I never spoke up. I never stuck up for myself. I didn't have a voice. So after all these breathwork sessions, I lost my voice. It reset my throat.
Wow, so it physically manifested in your body. That's fascinating. Literally,
to get rid of that trauma, the sickness had to come out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So even talking about it, my eyes are like watering up a little bit because I know it was a powerful moment that I never, we're talking like 8 months or 9 months of misery and I never said a word. I just went, okay, I was so petrified of losing that girl from my life. That all goes back to mummy leaving when I was younger. That I just never said anything because I was so scared if I actually said something, she'd leave.
And the fact is, everybody has something. Nobody lived a perfect life. I don't care if you were born into the richest family in the world, you have the most loving parents. Everybody has something that they need to deal with.
Well, there's this theory, if you can show the person you before the age of 7, I can tell you who you are today. Pretty much most of your deepest seated traumas came before the age of 7. And the reason being is because you're in permanent theta brainwaves before 7 years old. So you are susceptible to everything around you. Anything can make a trigger. Your mum and dad could drop a glass in the kitchen. And if you don't release it somatically, that becomes a trigger. You're now scared of loud noises.
And for people who don't know, theta is almost like a hypnosis state, isn't it? You're very susceptible.
Yeah, the quickest way to describe it is that first 5 minutes after you wake up, it's theta brainwaves. So when you're completely like, now imagine your partner annoys you in those first 5 minutes.
Sets a tone for the day.
Yeah, you are going to knock that person out. Yeah, and it will affect you forever. Yeah, so that's theta brain. You're so susceptible. You're like a sponge. You suck it up. So now imagine 7 years. It's a long time. As parents, there's no chance in not traumatizing your children. It doesn't exist. It's just how badly you do it. So just accept you're going to traumatize them, because even what an adult might think is a joke, the child won't.
No, I get it. I see it. You know, as a father, I've got 3 kids. One of them is 6.5. He's almost out of that period.
Yeah.
I've got a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. Yeah. And they're, you can see it, the way they act. They parrot.
Yeah.
You know, they'll repeat what you say.
Yeah.
And if you get angry and you lose your cool with one of them, you can see the trauma in their face, and then you feel so bad. I try not to do that. That's one of the most important things.
Seriously, get them to shake afterwards. Okay. Quickest way to get it out. Get them to either let them cry and cry it out, or get them to shake or dance. So I was speaking to someone literally earlier today, and they've got kids as well, and they told me a story where they had to go to the school to pick up the kid early for some reason, and the child thought they'd done something wrong, so they came up all tail between their legs and thought they'd done something wrong because mummy's here to pick me up early, and came out and went, did I do something wrong? That's what he said. She went, no, we've got to go here and and then apparently he literally walked forward and just started shaking. He started doing that completely instinctively. Wow. So the kid knew how to release that trauma. So at which point do we mess up the kids and not teach them how to release trauma?
Yeah, that's funny. Now that you mention that, I've seen studies on animals, and animals instinctively do that.
Yeah.
Dogs do it after
they drop
some sort of
floor and they
injury.
shake.
Yeah. Right.
The prime story that I always repeat is the lion chases the gazelle's sympathetic nervous system activates all the fascia, all the muscles, the adrenaline kicks in, the endorphin kicks in, the vagus nerve is like, whoosh, ready to go, runs, hides. The minute the lion's gone, it goes, drops to the floor, shakes it all out the body, and somatically releases that trauma. I'm good now, back in the parasympathetic, off it goes. How many people do you see on a daily basis that shake, drop to the floor and shake? They should, but crying, again, you cry, you release cortisol in the tears. Reset your adrenal gland and you'll release something called DHEA, which is the happy hormones. So you can reset it, just go and cry. Now now I know what I'm talking about. Many years ago I didn't. I'd be like, calm down. No, now I'm like, let it out. Go on, let it go. It's fine. I'm here. You know. So let it out. Cry, shake, dance, yoga, something physical. If you've had a stressful moment, physically get it out. The quickest way is to go and shake.
That's fascinating.
I had a friend who, after every breakup, she would go dancing.
There you go.
And that was her thing.
Yeah, that's healing.
Situationship or any,
Yeah.
like she got bad grades, she's like,
Situation.
we are going dancing
Yeah.
Afrobeats.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It works.
I never thought that this could be like this.
Yeah, it's therapy. Dancing is therapy. Trust me, I did it. I still do it for 20 years now. This is why a lot of dancers are happier. They still have their stress, different sides.
Yeah.
But yeah, dancing, physical movement releases trauma from the body.
Even like I've found it with almost depression as well. If you're feeling
Yes.
depressed
Go
or
to the
something,
gym.
Exercising, right?
Yeah.
You change the chemical.
Yeah. Stop chasing the dopamine, start chasing the long-term serotonin. That's what you want to do. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask. Okay, we're on a topic now. I want to,
Yeah.
we were talking about psychotropic drugs earlier,
Yeah.
and how now they're being used also for dealing with trauma.
Yes.
Right. So, has there been any studies or have any experience with using breath work to deal with trauma or to deal with addiction? How about specifically addiction?
Okay, cool. So you kind of have to go back to trauma to deal with addiction because an addiction probably came from a trauma. In fact, traumas create your personality today. So everything about you came from a trauma. Everything about me came from a trauma. Something happens, you go, I don't like that. I need to be this way to not let that happen again. And then you do it every day. After 6 months' time, it's just your personality now. That's who you are. You've created a strong suit, whatever you want to call it. So trauma only gets stuck in the body, like I said, when you don't release it. So if you don't know how to somatically or release that trauma, it will get stuck. It will create your personality, and then you develop forward. Now, I've never been an addict, so I can't relate to it. I can't put my mind in the mind of an addict, so I don't fully understand it. But I can imagine that taking drugs was a way of dealing with that trauma. If reality is that shit and that sucky, I know I used to smoke, so smoking was my 5-minute break from whatever I was doing. If I was in a stressful job, then I would go and have that cigarette, and it would be the break that allows me. And also, there's also another theory about smoking, that it's the inhale. You're doing breath work, ironically, just with a lot of smoke going into your body. So there's actually a theory around it being 50% breathing, 50% the chemicals you get. So yeah, coming back to addiction, I don't know enough about addiction to talk heavily into it, but I can tell you addiction is probably a result of a trauma. Something's happened, and that's their coping mechanism.
That's fascinating.
Some people
that
drink,
happens
some
with a lot
people
of
smoke,
soldiers.
some people don't.
That happens with a lot of soldiers. They go
PTSD.
into a war,
Yeah.
they get traumatized with PTSD, and they come
Yeah.
out and they become an addict to deal with that trauma.
Yeah.
And a lot of them go to Mexico to use this ibogaine, which is a certain sort of psychotropic that deals specifically with addiction. It's not legal in the United States, unfortunately.
Where is it legal?
Mexico.
Mexico. Okay.
Yeah, and
When are we going?
No, but you're right. I used to smoke cigarettes a long time ago. I've quit for 13 years, and I think it was the act, the actual physical act, because I could still smoke cigars, and I have no problem with addiction with cigars. But cigarettes, that was different. So if I pick up one cigarette today, I know that I'll be back 3 months from now. So I can never smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
So another question then would be, all right, let's reset here.
Change the subject completely.
What kind of schedule or repertoire or breathwork would you recommend for a person on a daily basis, and then a scheduling with breathwork classes? So give me a whole regimen of what the normal person should do.
And you've never done breathwork before?
If you've never done it, or if you're experienced as well.
Yeah.
So let's go two different schedules.
Okay, so if you've never done it, come to a class first. Come and learn from an actual facilitator. So IMD Breathwork. Come to one of our classes and set yourself a weekly goal of just trying 4 in a row. Yeah, and then see how you feel after that. And also doing a 10-minute practice in the morning, and doing something similar to what we did, the activating breath, into a parasympathetic. So the one we did where we did 2 minutes of breath hold and then 4, 7, 8. That would be the perfect morning start. Now, to make it easy, if you go to the IMD Instagram, click the link, there's actually a 10-minute recording of me guiding you through this. So it's easy. We do 4 minutes of breathing, 2 breath holds, and a meditation at the end where you're allowed to just sit with your thoughts and breathe slowly. So I would do it every morning. Every morning. It increases your CO2 tolerance, which again releases more oxygen. You oxygenate your body, which means you're going to get smarter, you're going to get fitter, you're going to stay awake for longer, regulates your stress response, it regulates your hormones, it regulates your emotions. There's a million different things. You know, a lot of athletes are now using breath work within their daily routine to increase their performance. What does that tell you? You know, straight away, professionals are doing it because there's enough science behind it now to go, this will increase your performance, even if it's 1 second in whatever they do, you know, that's an increase. So yeah, definitely try and do your 10 minutes every morning. If you miss the morning, do it at any time during the day, just do it. That's the key. So that would be my regimen, that's what I do. I do 1 class every single week where it's a good long session where I get to release anything and I get to push my body through discomfort and feel great. And then every morning is like topping up the CO2 tolerance and starting my day correctly. Other things I would include is the resonance breath. Remember the 5 seconds in, the 5 seconds out. We spoke about it earlier. Try and do that when you can during the day. That can be while working. You can do it in front of when you're driving your car, whatever you want to do. And then just remember the reset breath. If you're stressed, if you're anxious, if it's heightened, use the reset breath to bring yourself back down and then go into the resonance breath.
Do you have any instructions for that? Yes. on the website?
So the same link,
Instagram?
if you go to the Instagram, click the link, there's one that says post-breathwork document. There's a ton of breathing techniques in there and different situations to help you out, from sleep to stress to anxiety to morning. So yeah, everything's all in one place. Oh, and it's free. Great. This is free. You don't even have to come to a class. Just go and use it, please.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, it's super helpful for people during the day, dealing with daily stressful, dealing with daily stress.
Well, we're developing something called a 10-minute fix at the moment. Why I'm developing it. I'm creating multiple 10-minute journeys for different parts of life. So we have the morning breath work, and basically that's so popular that we were like, wait a minute, there's something here. So I've already created another 3. I've got a stress one, anxiety one, a sleep one. We haven't released anything yet. We want to get a good collection first. They take a long time to make. So there's going to be a manifesting one. There's going to be topics for everything. So the idea is that something happened, or so we'll go through the breaths. And I always do sympathetic into parasympathetic to really embrace that rebound effect, to drop you into relaxation. You see how you felt after doing the height into the low. You instantly, your whole body just goes, oh, that's better. So
it's powerful stuff, and you can do it right at home in your chair for 5 minutes at a time.
And the good thing is, with the 10-minute fix, you'll get all the sound effects, you'll get the binaural beats, you'll get the solfeggio frequencies, you'll get me coaching you with some amazing music. So it will be a simple, put the headphones in, close your eyes, go. Done.
Yeah, I have to say, the soundtrack is good. You do a good job with the soundtrack.
Well, ironically, that comes from my creative background. I've always been creating shows, and my job has been entertaining audiences and creating a narrative and writing scripts and stuff like that. So that, ironically, is the most fun part for me. Getting to create new journeys is a bit where I thrive. I love it. And this is why I have such an amazing team behind me now. So I have Flo, who's the COO. She takes all the stuff off me I don't like doing. She loves spreadsheets. I hate them. Then I have a PR lady that deals with all the influencers and deals with all the press and everything. I'm terrible at that. I'd be awful because I would forget to reply. My ADHD would go, oh, a butterfly. And then, now we're looking for an amazing editor to help us with the social media. And so we're just building this team around the world, and we're all freelance and we're all in our own spaces. One's like traveling to Bali next month, still working. One's from the Netherlands. I'm from Dubai and UK. So we're all just like bouncing around the globe and just keeping on top of it. It's great. I love it.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to add? I think I covered
I think we covered it all. Just come and try an IMD class. And a quick thing is, if you go to the Instagram, just pop us a message saying 50. Or put a comment 50, we can get you 50% off the first class. So you can come and try it. Yalla.
You heard it here. All right. Yes. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Great. Pleasure.